What is up, gamers? Welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we have another huge update from David Kim himself for Battle Aces, and it looks like this one is going to be going over some of the balance changes for the units and some other things that they've been working on for units in particular. And so I can't wait to jump into this and check it all out, see what they got going on, what they've been working on, and the direction that they want to go in for the next closed beta. So I'm going to read over all this and give you guys my thoughts and opinions as we go, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it as well. So please leave a comment and let me know what you think of these changes. And then also, if you would like to take a look at this for yourself and give them your direct feedback, feel free to check out the link. I'll leave that up here as well as in the description to this Reddit post, and feel free to give them your feedback as well. Also, if you haven't seen any of my previous developer update and news videos, please check those out. I'll leave another link to that up here, and that'll give you all the latest information and news about Battle Aces. And so if you enjoy all the latest news and information, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'd very much appreciate that. And I will do my best to keep you guys up to date with all the latest news and everything that they bring us. And hopefully we'll be finding out soon when they plan on bringing back the next closed beta. I can't wait to try all these new things out and get back into it. And so hopefully we'll find out soon, and I'll give you guys that info as soon as I find it. Anyways, let's get into this developer update from August the 7th. And it says, hello, we want to talk about unit updates we've been working on since the end of CBT 1, which is closed beta test 1, today. We've been iterating quite a lot, so this might turn out to be quite a long update. Overall, we're having so much fun playing Battle Aces. There are so many more new combinations to explore, and team members who are strong at the strategy side of the game are having a great time with much higher win ratios against higher skilled players. Granted, higher skilled players will catch up quick. No ETA yet still on when the next CBT is, due to continuing to iron out our planning of what exactly CBT 2 has in it. Turrets. Turrets have changed to anti-ground only and very strong for cost, countered by air or big. Heavy turrets have changed to be anti-air focused, also very strong for cost, and still shoots ground, countered by ground or big air. We've talked about this before, but as we continue to explore making turrets viable and strong as a defensive play option, it creates an endgame issue when both players are maxed out on bandwidth, due to turrets not having a bandwidth cost. So what we're trying next on this front is adding a bandwidth cost to turrets, adding an unsetup ability to turrets, and when you use the ability, it destroys the turret, freeing up bandwidth. Turrets also aren't selectable by the Select All Army button. Overall, our internal team members who have always wanted to play a much more defensive playstyle are very much enjoying the turrets being more viable now. So I think this sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to see what the turrets can do now. They also have this little image here, and for fun, who wins, how much left one heavy turret versus 7 dragonflies. So feel free to let me know what your guess is, or check this dev post out to find out the answer to that. So I think this is a pretty cool direction to see them going in, and I can't wait to test that out for myself. I can't really say off the top of my head whether I think this will be overall good or not, or how strong this might be, and so I think they'll need to kind of fine-tune this a bit more to figure out the exact strength that they want. But I do like this direction that they're going with, and so my only minor concern would be that I wouldn't want the turrets to be too dominant in the meta, and so hopefully they don't make the turrets so good that they become the top tier choice for everybody to go for, but I like having them in the mix as a potential for something that people can use. So giving them an unsetup ability I think is going to be kind of cool. I think that'll kind of help with the quality of life of using these in your army and whatnot, and so that'll be interesting to see how that works as well. Yeah, overall, I'm very excited to see how this plays out. Next up, we have the anti-air units here. We have been moving towards having a smaller advantage between Tier 1 and Tier 2 AA options in order to lean more clearly into the Tier 1 choice of bringing 1 or 2 matter-only units. We also wanted to more heavily distinguish the Tier 3 anti-air options and have made some changes. So Predator is back to being splash damage, great versus most air, countered by big air, and Predator is also moved to the Advanced Starforge. Advanced Bot is stronger versus air, and moved to the Advanced Foundry. Great versus air, countered by splash. Advanced Blink has an anti-air unit. Advanced Blink is redesigned as big unit that is also anti-air. Great versus splash and big air, countered by anti-air. Also soft countered by small air. You can think of them as mammoths on the ground that also shoots air. The main reason for this was we wanted a more clear role for this unit, instead of it just being generally good or bad versus everything, depending on the current tuning. and a multi-purpose big unit that is also AA looked to be a unique role that creates interesting situations. Tier 1 anti-air units cost ratio. We wanted to reduce the tedious math problem we currently have with the 3-to-1 cost ratio of Tier 1, since everything else that has an energy cost is 1-1 ratio. Also with the Tier 2 AA unit changes. So we made them 50-50 cost instead of 75-25. Also, we've increased their effectiveness against air and reduced their effectiveness versus ground to make their role clearer as well. So first, let's talk about this one here, the Tier 1 anti-air units cost ratio. I think I am liking this change to be 50-50. Just seems a bit more intuitive, a bit easier for someone to calculate in their mind what they need and how much units they're going to be able to make and all that. So I think I like that change. We'll have to see how it kind of plays out balance-wise, how it affects the economy and whatnot, and so it'll be interesting. It makes the Tier 1 anti-air units a bit more costly, right? Because the energy is much harder resource to come by. So it'll be interesting to see how this change affects the balance overall. But I do like the more simple and intuitive nature of this change here. So I think there's a way for them to make this work, and I think there's a way for them to kind of balance the unit around this. So, but then also I think because of this, it looks like they're going to increase the effectiveness against air units while making it less effective against the ground units, which I think is also a good choice because the Tier 1 anti-air units definitely seemed pretty weak for the most part. And then my only concern is that I wouldn't want the Tier 1 anti-air units to be too close in power level to the Tier 2 anti-air options. I'm hoping there's still enough of a reason to get the Tier 2 anti-air units over the Tier 1. Maybe they will find different ways of working around that. Maybe Tier 2 anti-air options can be a little more effective against ground units as well, whereas perhaps the Tier 1 anti-air units are literally basically only for anti-air. And so maybe that's something to consider. Maybe that's one way that they could balance it out or whatnot. But if they make the Tier 1 anti-air units just as good or better than the Tier 2, well then obviously there's not going to be any reason to grab the Tier 2 AA options. So I just hope they don't completely overtake everything and become the dominant choice there. So, and then with the advanced blinks, this is an interesting change. Many people, myself included, thought that the advanced blinks were very, very strong, even overpowered perhaps, and they were great against everything. They were a very tanky unit, very mobile unit. They did a ton of damage to pretty much everything. So, and the thing about that is, with it being a Tier 3 option, for myself at least, personally, I don't really mind too much a Tier 3 unit being a little bit on the overpowered side. I kind of am hoping that their Tier 3 units are very strong, and so I think having a unit like this isn't too bad for the game because Tier 3 is already very hard to get to in some situations. So I'm hoping that the advanced blinks are still going to be very strong, and there's still going to be a very good reason to include these into your deck. And so making them a big unit as well as anti-air, I think is going to be very interesting. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to play around with, and I just don't know how strong it's going to be though in the meta, and so we'll just have to wait and see once we get our hands on it, but I think it's a cool change and I'm definitely interested to try that out. And then with the changes to the advanced spot being moved to the advanced foundry and then also being stronger versus air, I think that's a cool change. I think it'll be interesting to see these moved into the foundry, and I think that'll be kind of an interesting way for them to kind of further balance these units. Just moving them from Starforge to Foundry or from Foundry to Starforge actually can make a pretty big difference in the meta and in the balance of the game, as it can kind of just affect the way that you want to build your deck. And so it'll be cool and interesting to see how this changes up some of the deck building with it being in the Advanced Foundry now. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I actually just had a crazy idea, perhaps. Maybe this would be very stupid, or maybe it could work. I don't know. But my idea is, I'm thinking all of a sudden, what if there were some units that were in both the Foundry and the Starforge? How would that affect the game? I feel like off the top of my head, maybe that would offer some interesting deck building options, but maybe that would be too overpowered, or maybe that you just wouldn't be able to balance that correctly or whatnot. So, maybe that's not a good idea, but I figured I would throw that out there, and let me know what you think of that idea, and if you think that's something that might work. That might be one of my crazier ideas. I don't know. So, anyways, with the Predator also being swapped here to the Starforge instead of the Foundry, and the Predator is going to be great versus most air, but countered by the big air, and it's being reverted back to the splash damage. So that's cool. I thought the Predator was a bit on the weak side, and it didn't seem like there was any real major reason for going Predator over some other options. So I think with this change and putting it into the Starforge is going to be interesting, because this would actually allow you to pick the Predator Predator as a tier 3 option over the Valkyrie, which is typically the best anti-air unit for this Starforge. And so having the Predator in place of the Valkyrie would actually allow you to counter anybody who tries to go Valkyrie. So this would make potentially some of your other air options stronger, because you could have the Predator to basically back it up. You could pair this up with other air units, and if your opponent is going anti-air air units, the Predator is going to counter those. So that'll be interesting. I can't wait to try that out, actually. The Predator might be a very strong tier 3 choice for the Starforge. Next up, we have the Recall Shocker range increased. We've ended up increasing their range quite a bit and reverted the health buff we've done during CBT1. 40% higher now compared to, say, like a Shocker. And I believe that's referring to the range. The range should be 40% higher compared to a Shocker. Recall Shocker finally feels viable now, but also, more importantly, they feel unique in their strength compared to other tier 2 splash options. Curious how actual testing goes once you guys have a chance to play them with them in the future. That's awesome to hear. I was definitely very underwhelmed by the Recall Shocker, and just kind of like annoyed trying to play them, because as I was playing them, they definitely seemed like basically just a weaker version of the Shocker, and so there's kind of just no reason to play these guys. Obviously, they have the ability to teleport to different bases, so that's their one upside. But they just were so much weaker than the Shocker that it just didn't seem like it was worth it. Really, we'll have to kind of wait and see once we test things out and see if this is the right change and just what they needed. But it sounds pretty good to me, so I can't wait to try that out. The other main reason I didn't like the Recall Shockers too much is because they're just so darn slow, and so I know that's the point of the Recall units, is that they can jump all over to different bases, but they're very slow moving. So I know that's kind of their little niche and whatnot, and so I think that's fine. And then we have the Heavy Ballista, one of my favorite units in the game here, added the big label. This one was just strange that it looks so big but isn't actually big, so we corrected this mistake. We will work on tuning needed to make this work if necessary. So it doesn't sound like there's any other changes to it just yet, other than adding that big label to it, which adding that label can adjust the way that it interacts with some of the other units, the counter units and the ones that it counters, and so that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, it'll also be interesting to see if they have to tune some of the numbers and tweak the Heavy Ballista a bit now that it's got this label attached to it. But I like that they're doing this, and they're keeping an eye on it to see how that functions in the game now. So all splash units deal 50% less damage against big. In CBT1, some splash units had this and others didn't, but we felt the clear relationship here made more sense in the new counter square we've been testing out. And so far, the testing on this front has been going well. The main problematic unit coming out of this change was the King Crab. So we've reduced their health overall, so they're weaker against non-splash units such as tier 1 units compared to the end of CBT1, but stronger versus splash. Okay, so this is an interesting change. I kind of liked where the King Crab was towards the end of CBT1, but it was definitely a bit overpowered, and mostly just for that initial base race or whatnot. And so I think that was more so the problem, maybe, but it'll be interesting to see how this change overall affects these. And so I hope the King Crab continues to be a strong option. They're definitely a very fun unit to use, and it seems like they are kind of a crowd favorite among the fans of this game. So I'm hoping they continue to be strong, but I'm glad that they are willing to change the King Crab still and tune it back even a little bit, even with it being such a popular unit. So it's good to see that they don't have a too heavy of a bias toward any one unit in particular, just because it seems to be popular among the community. So I think that's good to see for sure. And then recall ability. Delay before recall increased from 1.2 to 2 seconds. Reasoning here was we wanted to try a slightly bigger penalty to recalling out mid-combat. Okay, that's cool. So I definitely like this change. I don't know how big of a difference this is. 2 seconds. That might be too much, too little. It's hard for me to kind of say just off the top of my head without experiencing this firsthand. So I'll need to get in and test it myself to give final judgment on it. But increasing it to 2 seconds is definitely going to make it more difficult and more risky to move your recall units around. So I'm definitely glad they're increasing it. I definitely thought it was far too low. There were multiple times where I would use the recalls, and mid-fight I would teleport them away from my base to another base, and then I would just jump back a second later just to be able to reposition them, and so that they weren't getting focused down. So I don't really think the recalls should be on such a low cooldown that you're able to kind of jump away from the fight and then back into the fight, on the drop of a hat type of thing. So I definitely like this change, and I will reserve my final judgment on it for when I finally get to test that out myself. So anyways, the advanced recall Steiner no longer deal bonus damage versus big. We wanted to clean this up because these don't make sense in the new counter square we've been testing. Steiner, Swift-Shocker, increased health. These were just slightly on the underpowered side during CBT1, so we've been testing small buffs to these units. The main difficulty for such fast-moving units is we just can't go a bit too strong, or else they will snowball quite hard. So I definitely agree with them here on this. It's definitely difficult for them to balance these because of how fast they are. And so, again, in my opinion, I would prefer to have the speed on these reduced a little bit so that you can give them more power in other areas. And I'm not as big of a fan of the extreme differences in speed for different units. I think it just makes it difficult to balance that properly, and it definitely makes it difficult to play against certain units in certain situations. So I definitely did think, though, that the Steiner and Swift-Shocker should be just a little bit stronger than what they were in the CBT1, and so I'm glad to see them still working on these. Next up, we have the Bomber. Splash radius decreased, health increased, bonus damage against anti-big added. Bombers are small, and small beats anti-big is a new rule we've been exploring in our new counter relationships. Overall, bombers are similar in effectiveness against tier 1 units as CBT1, but they now also counter anti-big units such as the Destroyer. So you can make new combinations such as Crusader and Bomber to deal with combinations such as Shocker and Destroyer. But what's interesting here is Shocker Splash beats Bomber Small, and Bomber Small beats Destroyer Anti-Big. So the positioning in combat matters quite a bit. This is cool. It's interesting to see them trying out new things with the Bomber here, and it definitely seemed like it was on the weaker side, but I think that was mostly only because of the Bomber just being a very difficult unit to use. And so I'm hoping that the Bomber doesn't become a meta unit. I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of using it. I wasn't a fan of going up against it, but it's definitely an interesting and unique unit. So it's not something that I necessarily want to see go away or see them get rid of or anything like that. But I definitely do not want to see this become meta or too strong at any point. Again, that's my own personal bias coming through there, but I do think it will be interesting to try this out and kind of see where they end up taking the Bomber, because they've definitely been doing a lot of work on it to try to make it more relevant. So, and then we have the Raider. We increased the health of the Raider and kept everything else as is at the end of CBT1. They're now in a slightly different spot of if they can manage to get into the work line, they can stay alive longer to deal more damage, but it is still very difficult to get there due to their low movement speed that we've seen during CBT1. We wouldn't say Raiders are awesome now or anything like this, but are a bit more useful than what they were towards the end of CBT1. This is cool, I think. I'm down to try the Raiders some more. They were definitely underpowered before, and so I'd be curious to see if they can kind of balance this unit out to be a bit more effective, but not too overpowered, of course, and to see if there's kind of a way to work these into a deck. The biggest problem I have with the Raider is that if that's all they do is kill workers, obviously that can be very strong if they buff the numbers of the Raiders to be something crazy. But to me, usually I would prefer to play two tier 2 units that can be used in a more versatile way than the Raider. So it'll kind of be interesting, I think, to see where that lands. But overall, I think this change is fine. And then it looks like we have the Wasp. We've reverted the Wasp damage versus worker change we've made during CBT1 due to other changes we've ended up doing during CBT1. So that's interesting to see. I feel like the Wasps have been very strong. Wasp is definitely one of those units that can feel very oppressive, especially in the right hands. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then finally, 2v2 specific changes. Sniper deals less damage in 2v2. Mortars have less health in 2v2. These were the most offensive units in 2v2 during CBT1, so they were the first units we've tackled in 2v2 since CBT1 ended. I never played any of the 2v2s yet. It's something I am definitely looking forward to and want to try in the next closed beta. So I don't really have too much to add to this other than I could definitely see the snipers and mortars being very strong. So I definitely believe them when they said that was the most offensive units there. So I'm glad to see them working on it. And I think this could be good for them to go with these specific changes to these units for the 2v2. I think that could be a very good and effective way to balance things out in the 2v2s, because I imagine they play much different than the 1v1s. So anyways, that's going to be it for this dev update. A lot of awesome stuff in here. I'm super excited to try all these different things out. Can't wait for the game to come back in the next closed beta, and I'll definitely keep you guys informed and up to date. So if you want to stay informed with all the latest news and updates for Battle Aces, please like this video and then subscribe to the channel, and I'd very much appreciate that. And I'll let you guys know as soon as I find out when the closed beta is coming back. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys as always so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys again soon in the next one.